Over the past 2 days, we have engaged in difficult conversations within negotiations. And as we had said before, we didn't want to go and sit at a table and hear no for another 2 days, as we had previously experienced. Unfortunately, that is a majority of what occurred at the bargaining table with the GTBC. The GTBC opened the 2 days with a return to their opening salary proposal that they had posted on billboards across Saskatchewan back in July at the beginning of our bargaining round. There was little to no movement on many of the items at the table over the last 2 days, despite the Teachers Bargaining Committee's attempts to reach a tentative agreement. We said we were coming to the table in good faith. We wanted to work with the GTBC to reach an agreement that addressed the concerns that teachers have been bringing forward over this round of bargaining and really over the last decade, both around classroom complexity and having better supports for students and better protections around their working conditions, as well as improvements to their compensation. The GTBC was clear that what was being offered was their final offer. We pushed back several times and we heard it repeated. As we have shared in our news release and on social media, the final offer included a 3-year term with salary increases of 3% in the first year, 3% in the second year, and 2% in the third year, as well as the one line that we have previously talked about, ensuring that the accountability framework would be honored and followed. In addition to that, outside of the collective agreement, there was an agreement to have a letter of undertaking signed by the chair of the GTBC. This letter would contain items outside of bargaining that would address some of the proposals that teachers have brought forward. Unfortunately, as we have talked about with concerns around items outside of bargaining with classroom complexity, anything within the letter of undertaking would be non-binding, and there is no dispute resolution process. Over the next couple of days, we will be sharing more detailed information with Saskatchewan Teachers Federation members, and we will be doing our due diligence in providing time for members to consider all of the facts with the situation and all of the facts within the offer, to have their questions answered in order to help them make an informed decision about this offer. Teachers will have the opportunity to vote on May 8th and 9th. Regardless of the outcome of the vote on this offer, the bargaining process has taken a toll on the sector. The actions that we have seen from government, the actions from Saskatchewan School Boards Association, and the actions of some division administration have shown the lack of respect and appreciation for teachers in Saskatchewan, and a lack of appreciation for the work that they do as professionals in classrooms across Saskatchewan. Relationships have been damaged and they will not be easily repaired. We need to ensure that we are working together in good faith with a real commitment to improving the experiences of students in all areas of the province. Teachers want to be able to deliver that high-quality education to every child in Saskatchewan, but they need more support in order to make that a reality. So thank you for joining me. I see several hands up. I'll go to Keenan.
Hi, Samantha. I'm just looking at the releases that we got from both groups yesterday. You guys are calling it a final offer. They're calling it a tentative agreement. I'm just wondering if you could just help explain the significance of what this being termed a final offer means.
Well, a tentative agreement would imply that there were good faith negotiations that happened, that there was a back and forth, and both sides agreed that this was the best potential offer and that it addressed satisfactorily the needs of both groups. This was very clear from the GTBC that this is their final offer. There was no willingness to find further solutions within the bargaining process that addressed the concerns that teachers have brought forward in this.
So because it was a final offer, were you obligated to bring that back to membership?
Well, we are a democratic organization and we value the voice of our members. So we wanted to provide teachers with the opportunity to have their say on the final offer. We have heard from the GTBC that they believe that this is a fair offer, and we're ready to present the facts to members and have them, like I said, weigh all of the information, look at how it impacts them as an individual, how it will impact the collective of teachers across the province, and how it will ultimately impact students in classrooms, and make an informed decision about whether they feel that this is acceptable or not.
And just as a last question, or at least for now, but I am just kind of stuck on this final offer language. What happens if you don't ratify this this offer?
That's a good question. I would encourage you to ask the Minister of Education or the President of the SSBA what their response will be if teachers don't ratify this final offer. Is it truly a final offer, or are they going to agree to provide a new mandate for the GTBC? Are they going to agree to move to binding arbitration so that we can have a resolution in this? Ultimately, the decision is going to lie with the GTBC in terms of, in the government and leadership of the Saskatchewan School Boards Association in terms of how this process is going to look going forward. But like I said, I respect the voice of the 13,500 teachers across the province, and they will let me know whether this is approved or not.
Thank you. I may circle back later.
All right, sounds good. Alec?
Hi, Samantha. Just wondering if the STF or the Teachers Bargaining Committee is going to recommend members vote in favor of this offer.
So no, as I said, we deal in facts at the STF, and we will be presenting those facts to members and allowing them the opportunity to weigh the benefits and the consequences or potential risks of voting in favor or voting against, and come to an informed decision on their own. I respect the 13,500 teachers across Saskatchewan. They are intelligent. They are dedicated to this profession, and they know what is best for themselves, what is best for their schools, and what is best for their colleagues. And I know that they'll make the right decision in the end of this, regardless of what it is, because their voice are the ones that are the most important.
And just to be clear, if the STF isn't going to offer direction on where to vote, I mean, it sounds as though you're not happy with this result. I would assume that you're anticipating teachers will reject this final offer.
It's hard to say. It is a complex situation. I know that it has been a challenging time for many members across Saskatchewan. There has always been two consistent priorities within our bargaining process. Specifically, we've been talking about classroom complexity through a majority of our conversations because the GTBC said that salary comes last. We have now seen what the increase to the salary mandate looks like. And I look forward to having those conversations with members about how they're feeling with this. I have seen an initial reaction from members, both on social media as well as with direct conversations with them. And I look forward to having further conversations to see where they land on this.
With respect to the contract, it sounds like there's in the STF release, there's a reference to the accountability framework, while the government release says they've included the framework within the agreement. I'm looking for a bit of clarity on what the language looks like within the CBA as it relates to that accountability framework.
So the language within the collective bargaining agreement would be the one line that we had providing at the table with having the entire accountability framework included. Is before that the accountability framework would be followed and honored.
Gotcha. Okay. I can let somebody else.
Okay, thanks, Alec. Laura, I think yours is in the chat if I'm correct. I have to open it. So a couple of questions. What are you recommending to teachers for the vote? And the Employment Act says that if the minister considers it to be in the public interest, the minister may require the board to order a vote on the employer's last offer. Is this a case in this instance? Is there no choice but to hold this vote? So as I said, I respect the voice of 13,500 teachers, and I appreciate the question of asking me what I recommend in this. My voice is the voice of 13,500 teachers, and I have heard comments from the Minister of Education talking about union leadership, but the union leadership is here to represent those teachers. And so I'm looking forward to providing them with the information, looking forward to having conversations and answering their questions. But ultimately, they will set the direction of how this goes in the future. They will provide the recommendation to the Teachers Bargaining Committee of whether it is going to be accepted or whether we're going to continue to seek more. Dane?
Hi, Samantha. I'm just going to actually return to what Keenan had mentioned before. And I think Laura somewhat mentioned in her question there, but with some with the Sask Employment Act, it talks about the final offers as kind of a specific wording. So I'm not sure, is this, are you saying when you use the words final offer, is that just in reference to what the GTBC said during the negotiations that you had mentioned, or is it in reference to, you know, the Employment Act and just how it phrases final offer?
So we heard final offer from the GTBC several times when we were at the bargaining table. We pushed on that. We really tried to engage in those good faith back and forth conversations, but we heard them repeat that several times, that this was the final offer. And like I said, after 2 days of seeing little to no movement, we felt that it was time to take their final offer and have members take a look at it and provide their voice within the process.
I know you've answered this question a little bit, but just to kind of clarify, so as far as, you know, our recommendation to teachers, it sounds like the STF is taking a neutral position. Is that correct? Like they're not recommending it. They're not.
Absolutely. We deal in facts, and there are several facts to consider within the offer that comes from the GTBC, as well as the items within the letter of undertaking that is outside of the agreement, and as I said, non-binding with no dispute resolution process, and as well as the facts in terms of our current situation, individual situations, as well as our collective situation within education. And as I said, teachers are intelligent, they are critical, and they are dedicated and engaged in this process. And I know that they will make the right decision regardless of what it ends up to be. But their vote, their voice is the most important within this process. And like I said, I look forward to engaging in those conversations with our members.
And just the last question for now, is something you mentioned earlier, is I think it was again Keenan who had asked, you know, what happens after this, and you're talking about kind of, you know, giving teachers the facts. So I guess what is the fact is, you know, if this doesn't go through, what happens? I know you said, you know, to ask the government, but I mean, that is also an STF decision. Is kind of the teachers ought to know, as the public ought to know, what happens if this doesn't go through, if it becomes a strike, you know, as things like graduation come near for students.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be in a point where we are looking at a potential continuation. It is unfortunate that we're bringing forward a final offer, not a real good faith tentative agreement where both sides have agreed to the items within there. And if it isn't ratified, there is a potential of continued action. It is unfortunate, but that is the point where we are at this time. If teachers don't ratify it, they're saying that the items within there are not sufficiently addressing the needs that they have been talking about for really, like I said, for a decade now with classroom complexity. And then over the last 2 agreements, we have also talked about the fact that teachers have lost 10% purchasing power. So if this continues, it is because government hasn't been listening to the voices that have been calling on them to address those big concerns, specifically around classroom complexity. Through our Tell Them Tuesday platform, we had over 400,000 emails and phone calls just within that platform to MLAs. They need to start listening to the voices within Saskatchewan, not just with teachers, but with students and parents who are saying that the conditions in our schools are not sufficient and we need more support.
Sorry, actually, last clarification. The vote's on May 8th and 9th, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Thank you.
Ryan?
Hi, Samantha.
Hi.
Last time we talked, we were talking about an agreement that has to work for everybody, parents, teachers, students. And when I talked with Minister Cockrell, he echoed those same sentiments. Do you feel this offer as it stands, is it beneficial for students?
Well, that, like I said, is a conversation that will be ongoing. I don't think that anything that we agree to within this process or anything that comes out of this process is going to solve the issues of classroom complexity. That is going to be an ongoing conversation that will need to be addressed through increased investment from our government to ensure that students are getting the supports that they need in classrooms all across our province. In many of the cases, even with the budget that has come out this spring, school divisions are talking about status quo. Some are talking about further cuts, which seems insane that we can cut further to our classrooms. And those that are talking about improvements to classroom supports, they are minimal. But what does come out of this process is that accountability framework that ensures that the restricted funds will be directed to classrooms and that there is accountability around those decisions. It includes a voice for teachers to be included because teachers are the ones working with students day in and day out. They understand the challenges of their classroom, their schools, and their communities, and they provide an important perspective in that decision-making process. And as well, transparent and open reporting around where those dollars are being directed. And I think that that's important for parents and community members to receive and understand as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keenan?
Is this deal any better than what was initially offered last May and June?
There are slight improvements from what was originally offered, although when we returned to the table on Tuesday, the salary offer was the opening offer that we saw on billboards of 3, 2, and 2. We did have a slight increase in terms of salary, but as I said, it doesn't address the significant loss of purchasing power that teachers have experienced and have talked about needing to see a correction to. But we have also seen improvements to start addressing the challenges around classroom complexity. So from where we ended with conciliation, we have seen the increased funding come within the multi-year funding agreement. That's with SSBA. Teachers have no way to hold government accountable to that and to ensure that those funds continue. But I strongly hope that regardless of what happens within this bargaining process, that members of the public continue to have the conversation around classroom complexity. And then as well, like I said, that accountability framework where it does have the line included within the that final offer that the accountability framework will be honored and followed. It provides a dispute resolution process within that. So there have been changes from the opening mandate to the GTBC to where we are with their final mandate.
I'm just wondering if you could or how you could characterize sort of the breakdown here. Even on Friday, you and the minister had such a positive tone in your speech, and we're saying sort of all the right things. It looked like a deal was kind of imminent, and now here we are, and there's very different today. I'm just wondering if you could break down sort of the breakdown.
Yeah, unfortunately, that tone was set back when we first began negotiations in May of 2023, right at the end of the month. Government started planning that billboard campaign almost immediately in June. We saw the billboards come up characterizing teachers as greedy, misleading the public, sharing false information about teachers' compensation. here in Saskatchewan, and to me, that set the tone for negotiations. I have always been hopeful. I have always been ready to find a solution, as have the Teachers Bargaining Committee, as well as the 13,500 teachers in Saskatchewan. We want to get to an agreement, but we need to have those big priorities addressed. And like I said, we'll present the facts to teachers around what is contained within the final offer from the GTPC, as well as within the letter of undertaking. And teachers will have a difficult decision in weighing those facts and looking at the current situation to determine whether we have sufficient improvements to be able to move forward.
Thank you.
Thanks. Jeremy?
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm curious what the dispute mechanism looks like. Like, what would this look like in the agreement?
Well, within the provincial collective bargaining agreement, we have a grievance article that outlines what the dispute resolution process looks like within, or 4 articles that are contained within the collective bargaining process. But within the accountability framework, dispute resolution could look different from that, but some of those finer details haven't necessarily been worked out. But we're happy that there is a way for teachers to be critical of the process and have a potential correction or a ruling on a decision that's happened within that process.
Okay, and why didn't the STF reject this and take job action?
Well, we could have had that happen, but like I said, we have seen some change from the opening offer that we have been talking about over the last 10 months to what the GTPC has provided as a final offer. They repeated that several times, and as I said, I respect the voice of teachers, and we are a democratic organization where teachers have the say within our process. We had 9,000 data points within our preparation for bargaining. We had a sanctions vote that included voice from teachers all across the province. We continue to have town halls and have those informal check-ins. And just with the repeat of final offer, final offer, final offer, we felt like it was an appropriate time to have a more formalized check-in with members in terms of whether they see this as a acceptable agreement or if the final offer needs a little bit more work.
Mm-hmm. And just as a member yourself, as an educator, what do you think about this proposal?
I mean, fair question. But like I said, I'm in a unique role here where my voice is not as important as the 13,500 teachers, and I fully respect them. My voice is really their voice. And so I look forward to having the conversation in depth with all of the members across the province. I look forward to hearing their feedback in where they are. And like I said, I've had a little bit of informal feedback through that. And I will 100% support whatever the decision is from the 13,500 members across the province.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Stephen?
So numerous times over the course of the past few months, the government, various ministers, MLAs have all said that the government's been willing to move on issues such as the pay process going to the same structure that's used for MLAs, offering that, workplace safety enhancements, the ability to manage the dental plan and so forth. And they've been very steadfast that they have made those movements. Were those, because you've already mentioned that the pay, so obviously that was not included. Did they conclude those other ones in that offer that they made to the STF, or were those taken off the table as well?
So many of the offers that government has put forward, including offers originally with classroom complexity and addressing the working conditions of teachers, have been outside of the collective bargaining process. So we have talked about violence in classrooms. as well as some of the other items that you have mentioned. Many of those, or if there are any solutions to those, which I look forward to sharing the details more specifically with members, but those lie not within the collective agreements. So the majority of those action items are going to fall into the letter of undertaking. And as I said, those aren't binding agreements. And there's no dispute resolution process to them, which, as I have always shared, anytime that people are making commitments, the best place to make those commitments within the education sector are within the collective agreement. If they are real, genuine commitments that any party doesn't have the intention of walking back on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dane?
I want to clarify as well, this is the first vote that the teachers will be making on a contract agreement since the job actions was voted on, correct?
That's correct. Yes, we had our sanctions vote in October. And then from there went into conciliation. This is really the first offer that has come forward that has been different than what we had seen at the table in negotiations prior to our impasse being declared in October. So this is the first vote that teachers would have in the process as a whole across the province since that October sanctions vote.
And the MOU and the spending guarantees. I just had a question from a colleague as far as what's your thoughts on that as far as how it's been placed into the negotiations and into contract agreement?
Well, again, I've talked about the need for any commitments to be binding. The funding that is included within the multi-year funding agreement is not something that is put into the collective bargaining agreement, but the accountability framework is. And so anytime that we're seeing binding agreements that have dispute processes, to me, that is a positive step forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so not seeing any other questions. I just want to again share our thanks to all of you for joining us here and your commitment to continuing to talk about public education. I know that there has been a lot going on recently, specifically within education, and it has been a long and difficult round for everyone involved. But in the end of it, I'm hopeful that we will get to a place that improves the conditions for teachers and students in this province, that recognizes the challenges that teachers face within classrooms, that students face within classrooms with classroom complexity, and that starts to value teachers. And as I said, relationships have been damaged through this process. It really has been the process has really been detrimental to those relationships. And regardless of what the outcome is of this vote, there needs to be a commitment from all of the provincial partners to start to repair those relationships and to start to show teachers the respect that they deserve as professionals, and also show them that they are valued for the work that they do in delivering an education to the students in Saskatchewan. We want to have every child receiving a high quality education. We want to have them thriving in our education system. And regardless of the end of bargaining or the result of the vote, that conversation is going to continue on for teachers and for members of the public. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.